Hello, my lovelies. We're back. So, I'm going to start off with a little bit of a brief update today. I don't really have much updates, but I'll update you in my amazing saga that is my life. I know you've been curious. I know you've been like, where's she at? Miss her. Some of you might not have honestly been like, Rip, where's she been? Is she gone? No. Just a busy girl. And then we'll get back into the world of Hallie and Julian. Guys, we're almost at the end. Thank God. Guys, I fear it's been taking long because I'm just not invested in this book. I'll be honest, but I know we all want to know how it ends. I mean, I'm sure we can all figure it out, but to logistically get to the end. And then I'm going to do another book, but I'm going to do one that I fear will probably be a little bit more engaging. So stay tuned. I would say I do a poll so you guys can pick, but no one ever responds or interacts. So I fear I'm just going to have to make the decision for all of us. I might do the spy one. I don't know if you guys remember from the very, very beginning, just because Dana thought that that's what was happening here. So I'll do that maybe for my girl Dana, who is the one that loves these stories. So, and then I'll try to do that one more back to back. So hopefully I'll be more invested. Alright. Now, don't mind my face. My face is looking crazy. It's probably the worst acne I've ever had in such a long time. Also, I don't know how much is too much to say on this because apparently some videos are being seen by randos. But that's the beauty of me, I think. No filter. So where to start? Since I spoke about my acne, I'll talk about I am gonna see a dermo this Saturday because my face has just been hurting and driving me crazy, and I'm tired of putting a million pimple patches on a day and like looking like I'm like freshly going through puberty again. So that sucks. My hair is also falling out like crazy, and thin as hell, but one thing at a time. Tomorrow I'm also going to my primary care during work hours. Don't tell them. Because tomorrow's a virtual day. But it should be a quick appointment. I'm gonna bring up. I've been having some like urinary tract issues. Not an infection. Like it's not like a UTI, which I mean it could. I don't know, but like where I keep feeling the need to have to pee, but like I just peed, like kind of like pressure. And then also like. I don't know, maybe like hemorrhoids or something. I don't know. Like, I don't know. Girl, I think your girl's dying over here. I don't even know. Like, and it comes and goes. It's random, but it won't stay long. I'm not in any pain. And then also, like, I should probably get my knee checked out just because it still hurts from when I fell in October on the marble floor. Also, my knee feels flat. So, that's probably, like, not good. And then also, like, I'm going to bring to his attention for probably, like, the millionth time feeling nauseous 24/7. Do I think that's going to get resolved? No. Do I think he's just going to be like, okay, hear everything I have to say, and then just refer me to other doctors? Yes. So I have that tomorrow, and then I have work, and then I have a meeting at 4 p.m. at work that I do not want to deal with, but that's something in and of itself. That's a long story. Like, I could do a whole video on that, because my work drama is just so unnecessary, but so actually quite like insane. And then Saturday in the morning I have dermo, and then I'm getting my yearly thyroid ultrasound that I had to fight to get. Also I really need it because lately it's uncomfortable to swallow and it's really tight here, and I was feeling like aches and pains like right here in my throat, which is where my thyroid is removed. So that's not great. Also been having like random pains in my side. Actually it's been this side. But, so yeah. Also my medication, I recently had an endo appointment, and my medication has been increased because my levels were really bad, and my calcium has been increased because those were also really bad, so we have not improved at all. If anything, we've got worse. I've been doing everything they told me to do, except drinking milk, and that's never gonna happen, so rip me, I guess, because I'd rather die than drink milk. Get me, boys, because I ain't doing it. What else? So yeah, that's my crazy next few days. And I finally found a dentist because I got insurance. So I'm gonna go to the dentist next week on Wednesday. I'm gonna have that next Wednesday. I'm gonna have the dentist in the morning, and then at night I'm babysitting for my uncle's 2 kids. So crazy girl over here, party animal, I know. And then from next weekend on, I don't have a single free weekend. So your girl's busy. Your girl's booked up. So if you were looking to hang out, you gotta start scheduling early ahead and start thinking about January, because what is this? I don't know. So like I said, this weekend, that's what I have this weekend. Then next weekend, I'm going to a tree lighting thing with Dana, which is gonna be fun. I also am getting my nails done next weekend. I have something else next weekend. I can't remember. And then the weekend of the 6th, I'm going to a wedding with my friend Allie. Last minute. I just got 2 dresses online that hopefully get here in time. I gotta get shoes, but I don't know. Depending on which dress I like and I can fit it in and we'll wear, I'll figure it out. And then the weekend after that, I'm gonna do something with Allie for both of our birthdays. Maybe like night snow tubing, like upstate or in Pennsylvania. We're not sure yet. And the weekend after that is my birthday, and I'm doing something. I don't know what, because Ariana refuses to tell me. But I'm being such a good girl about it. Like, honestly, like, give me my cookies, give me my praise, because who is she? She's a new girl. She's a new woman, like, turning... Okay, well, we don't need to talk about how I'm turning, but, like, this new year, I'm just evolving. Do I look different? Evolved? You know, like how Pokemon evolve? Like, what's my next level up? So that's my birthday weekend, and the weekend after that is like, it's like the Christmas week. I have Christmas, and then that weekend, the day after Christmas, I'm leaving, going to New Hampshire on a solo trip for an entire week. So I'll be away from December 26th to January 2nd. I drive back January 2nd, and then I have to repack my entire suitcase because January 3rd I'm flying out for a work conference. And then I fly back January 7th, and then I have off the 8th, and then the 9th I have to go to the city for another work conference. So you can say I have a bit of a tight schedule. Just a little. If anyone has any suggestions of things to do in New Hampshire, let me know, because as of right now, I'm just going to be reading, sleeping, and I am going to go see the ice castles because it's an hour from where I'm staying, so that I'm excited about. Food-wise, there's no kitchen, so don't really know what I'm doing for a whole week. Snacks, soda and snacks probably, for being real. I only eat 1 meal a day, so I just gotta get 1 meal a day. Hopefully got like a Wendy's nearby or something. You girl, rip my girl, honestly, and by that I mean me. So yeah, that is my calendar life update. Work update. Work is good. The job is pretty good. The job in and of itself, working with students, is great. We went to an escape room. I don't know if I talked about that on here yet, but we did an escape room. It was my first ever escape room. We got out. We succeeded. It was fun. It was the hardest room. The students had such a great time. And then I also recently went to Aladdin on Broadway, which was so cool also. And they also had a great time. So doing stuff for the students, doing that kind of stuff. The job in general is really great, easy peasy, like lax. It's some of the people I work with and like the work drama and like being put in the middle, and then like all sides like coming to me, and then like making me kind of like feel like I have to like pick a side, but like also like not. It's just been really like uncomfortable. So that's just kind of sucked and been like weighing on me a little bit, and I hate that kind of stuff. So that sucked. But other than that, that's been fine. So calendar life, busy. Work life, drama. Family life, normal. Friend life, amazing. Got the best friends in the world. If anything, I just don't see them enough, and I miss them so much, and I love them so much. I wish I could see them every day. Just give them little kisses on their forehead. And then there's dating life. Oh gosh. Oh gosh. I'm bashful. So don't be bashful, Lorax. What?
I have some more if you want. Already saved some for Bella.
Okay, just a little more. Please, may I have some more, sir? I'm recording y'all, so just so you know. Yeah, I mean, fair enough. That could have been the case also. But no, just updating my little fans, you know? Samsonites? Is that cute? Do we like that? No, we don't like that. Okay, back to the drawing board. It just came to the top of my head, so, you know, not my fault. Work with what I got. It's taking a long time to give me this. It's cold and chilly in my room. That's why I'm wearing my comfort. Get your comfort set for the winter. I want to get a dark green set. Or like an olive green. Thanks, Queen.
I have one. Sam's Sonic Slurpers.
No, I hate that.
They love it.
They don't love it.
They love it.
Say it so they can hear it. I can't hear you.
I look crazy.
Alright, bye, Pepto-Bismol ass bitch. I ate my first batch before I did this video because I didn't want to have to rudely be slopping in your face again. Because I feel like I always do this video when I'm eating dinner. But if you offer me more of the cheesy chicken potatoes, I'm gonna take the cheesy chicken potatoes. Anyways, where were we? For once I actually remember. Okay. So, I'm in my lover girl dating era. Self-appointed. And of course when I actually want to start going out on dates, like that's when nobody all of a sudden is answering or like nobody's like about like going out. I might possibly have a date on Saturday. I'm not sure if I'm gonna go though. It's also not like 100% solidified, so. And if I do go, it's with this girl on Hinge that we haven't really had much conversation. So. But it would be like a coffee meetup type of thing. Like it wouldn't be anything like serious. But. So that's one thing. The other thing is I am talking to somebody. Fairly serious. I wouldn't say too serious. Because we haven't met yet. We've been talking for like maybe 3 weeks. I mean, we were definitely talking around Halloween time. So like next week is definitely going to be a month. Minimum. Ugh, that's embarrassing to say. And we talk every day. We're like slowly getting to know each other. And dare I say he's fairly decent. That was hard for me to say. But why I'm like dragging my feet is we haven't met and we have no meeting date in sight. And that makes me like about it. And you know me. I'm always worried about catching feelings and getting hurt. So like every so often when I see myself like, oh, catching myself like possibly catching feelings, I'm like, walls. So right now no like crazy updates on that. More to hopefully come, maybe. I will say I've heard his voice through voice notes and he passed on that front because we all know last time the last person did not. And I tried pushing through and that didn't work out. Looks not my normal type, but it'll do. I can tolerate. I'm being hard. Conversations decent. He says some things sometimes that make me go, which is very uncommon. If we all know, we know. That's why I'm kind of trying to every so often set up barriers because I see myself like, and I can't be getting like that. No, we tough. Made of steel over here. Stone cold bitch. Yeah. Yeah, the only thing that I'm waiting to see is if we click in person, if the vibes match up, and you guys all know, like, either click or I don't. So I'm worried that I'm gonna, start liking him, then we're not gonna click in person, and I'm gonna get, hurt, or, it's gonna be hard to, stop it. And I guess, if we're being honest, my other fear is we are gonna click in person, and, maybe he's not gonna, click. I'm gonna like him, but he's not gonna like me, and then, I'm gonna be left hurt. So, as of right now, it's just nothing. We're just talking, texting friends. Sometimes he annoys me. Sometimes he makes me smile. It's a slippery slope, you know? Next thing you know, I'm being nice to a man. I fear I can't handle that yet. I'm just not ready. I'm not ready. No. I'm not ready. So yeah, that's my current life updates. Nothing too exciting right now. Just really busy. Some good, some bad, some just genuinely busy. I don't sleep great. Never have, never will. Really miss my friends. All of ya. I love ya. I know it's just randomly out of nowhere got stuffy. Okay. Oh. Samta's in the building. Already started shopping, almost already done. Now I'm just starting to slowly get, the little things that I need, or, waiting to get certain things, and then, just getting friend stuff now. I still gotta get my grandpa. He's hard to get for. Finished my grandma. I finished my sisters. And my mom, I don't know, I still need, I think, a big thing for my mom. And then I want to get some smaller stuff still for my sisters. I gotta get a big gift for my dad. And then certain friends, I still need, their big gift. But other than that, I've got a lot so far. And they're all wrapped in under the tree. Yep. Talk to me nice. Stocking stuffed and everything. Okay. Are you ready? You cozy? Warm? Go get your drink and your food. I'll wait. Okay. So we're on chapter 18. The last thing that happened was... I now remember where we were last at. He finally decided he wanted to be with her, and then he told her to take a walk with him. If he didn't kiss her soon, the world was going to end. Julian was convinced of this beyond any shadow of a doubt. He was so starved for the taste he'd been denying himself that he hustled her out of the barn like they were escaping its imminent collapse. Nothing was collapsing, however, except his self-control where Hallie was concerned. How the fuck had he kept his distance from this woman? When he walked out of the barn and saw her teetering up the path, so familiar and so unforgivably unknown at the same time, he wanted to crawl to her on his hands and knees. Bark like you want it. Bark like you want it, baby. That's Julian right now, honestly, at this point. Hallie could literally be barking your knees, and he'd be Orf! Got it. We in this bitch. Okay. This was not the way he planned for the evening to go. He was supposed to apologize. Yeah. They're always supposed to apologize, and they just never do. They were supposed to sit down and talk, sort through the obstacles between them, and devise a mutual plan for moving forward together. As two adults with a common goal. A healthy, communicative relationship. Maybe if she hadn't worn that tight black dress, his chances for success would have been more realistic. Maybe if she didn't make him feel animalistic, he wouldn't be dragging her out into the darkness right now, his cock halfway to erect, a bead of sweat trickling down his spine. And maybe if he didn't feel himself falling irreversibly in love with her, he might have already dragged her into the shadows by now and satisfied his craving for her perfect mouth. But he felt what was happening, acutely. Thus he couldn't ignore the sore weight of his heart where it sat in his chest, wondering why it hadn't been used until now. Couldn't ignore the way his throat seemed to be jammed through with pins every time she blinked at him. Jesus Christ, love was pain, apparently. Love was being stripped down to the bones, being more than willing to beg for more. And because he wanted more than just one night, because he wanted to try his fucking hardest for more than a sweaty encounter with this woman, he slowed his step and breathed deeply in through his nose, out through his mouth. Everything you're thinking is right there on your face, she said to his left, echoing the words he'd said to her earlier, because she was absolutely incredible, and he'd been denying himself due to his fear of the unknown. He was in the exact right place when they were together, and he couldn't fight that feeling anymore. Couldn't fight that feeling anymore. Okay. More important, he needed to make sure she felt right being with him, too. As if they were standing in the exact same spot in this big fucking universe, not a single inch apart, physically or emotionally. Was that utterly terrifying? Yeah, it was. As he'd known from the beginning, this woman threw him off center, dashed his plans, and flaunted time like it was a suggestion. She could very well drive him completely insane. But while holding her hand and leading her into the vineyard between the rows of fragrant nighttime vines, no other choice existed. Tomorrow, no other choices would exist, or the day, or the year after that. There was only being with Hallie. He'd have to let something other than himself determine the course of his time going forward. Chance. Possibilities he didn't control. That realization was so heavy, so hard for a man like him to grasp, that he slowed to a stop about 100 yards into one of the rows. As if they had been specifically to lock together. She walked right into his arms, her nose flattening against the side of his neck in such an endearing way, such a trustful way. It took him a moment to speak. Being in the vineyards reminded me of the fire, until we went picking together. Now when I look out at them, I just think of you, he said, watching fascinated by the way one of her curls looped around his finger. Were you in St. Helena when it happened? His stomach was already plummeting like an elevator with a snapped cable in anticipation of her answer. He'd barely be able to stand it if she'd been scared, let alone in danger, especially knowing he had been in town at the time. My grandmother and I drove south. We stayed in a motel and watched the news for 5 days straight. She pulled back and searched his face. You stayed behind. He nodded, hearing the distant crackling of burning wood. My father and I did what we could to prepare. Evacuated everyone, moved equipment, but they said... Fire officials told us we had 6 hours before the fire reached us, and it happened in one hour instead of 6. He could still remember the way that stolen time had choked him, the way denial unzipped him straight down the middle. Time was supposed to be absolute, a foundation for everything. For the first time, it had betrayed him. My sister was in one of the larger sheds when it happened. She'd been loading wine stock into a truck. Just an ember, carrying on the wind, they said. The whole thing was up in flames in a matter of minutes. I was acres away when it started. By the time I'd run to the building, it was engulfed. We were the only ones here, so no one heard her screaming. I almost didn't get her out. He didn't want to think about that, so he moved on briskly. I'd never heard an... Wait, go back. Was she shaking? How did you get her out? I went in, he explained. Oh my god. Oh my god, I can't. Not them trying to give Julian a hero arc this crazy. You went into a burning building to rescue your sister? I'm just clarifying. Yes, she needed help. You saved her life and she still brought you to this terrible wine tasting? Hallie murmured, shaking her head. Despite the joke, however, she appeared almost shaken by the story. I interrupted what you were going to say. You never had a what? He rarely said the term out loud, but this was Hallie. An anxiety episode. As a child, I had them, but not since then. Not as an adult.
Can I ask you and the Sonic Slurpers a question?
What?
It's
Don't call them the Sonic Slurpers.
I'm calling them it.
What?
It's a hypothetical.
What?
Say someone was cooking and a piece of their finger got in the cooking and people ate it. Would you consider them cannibals?
No, because they didn't consciously, purposely choose to eat it. I think cannibalism
is the act of eating a human.
Yeah, but I think it's intention.
No.
But I think it's intention.
No.
Yes.
The legal definition of cannibal...
I don't care about the legal. I don't care about anything legal.
Consuming of one species.
I don't care what legally you pronounce it to be.
So if someone didn't mean to murder...
Did you put some stuff in my food?
Well, no.
Okay.
I almost sliced off with my finger, though I cut it. Big ass knife.
Angela.
And then I was like, oh my god, what if I actually did? And because it's gonna look like the potatoes and the chicken. So what if when you guys consumed it, you would technically be...
Oh, I'd throw up.
You have committed an act of cannibalism. You wouldn't be a cannibal, but you committed an act of cannibalism.
Unknowingly. I think that's important to put. Involuntarily. Honestly, that's a crime.
Think about that.
That's a crime. The person that cut their finger and got in there and served it. Yeah, but they didn't warn anybody.
Yes, they did. They're on the way to the hospital.
That doesn't mean anything.
People, they know they were cooking.
No. Think about somebody at a restaurant. If you're eating your dinner, you didn't know somebody from the kitchen staff had to go to the hospital. Think about it.
Yeah, but it's not technically illegal to accidentally cut your own finger and put it in the thing. It is illegal to consume another human.
Get out. This is not so unnecessary. Get out of here. Freak. Where were we? I apologize for her. Don't know why she's like this. Okay. An anxiety episode. As a child, I had them, but not since then. Not as an adult. My schedules didn't make sense in the context of the fire. We were supposed to have 6 hours, and suddenly we're driving through smoke just hoping to escape with our lives. Time wasn't safe anymore. My sister wasn't safe. I didn't do well with it. He paused to gather his thoughts, wiping the perspiration from his palms down the sides of his pants. I hated that feeling, that locked-up feeling, and you might think the fire would have acted as some kind of immersion therapy, and I'd loosened my grip on time, realizing it can't be controlled, but I doubled down instead. I lost time, completely. I just sort of went numb, Hallie, for days. My family was trying to salvage the winery, and mentally, I wasn't there. I did nothing to help them. All I could do was sit in a dark room and write lessons plans, lectures. I remember almost nothing from the days after the fire. And that's why I've been trying so hard to stay away from you. Anything that threatens this control I have, I've been seeing it as the enemy. When it gets a hold of me, I don't recover quickly like Garth. It's something to avoid at all costs. But I can't do that with you anymore, because you're worth burning for. You're worth turning and driving straight into the fire. Whoa, she whispered, the gray of her eyes swimming in starlight. I don't know which part of that to address first. The part that maybe you're a hero for saving your sister? Not the maybe. Yo. She violated him so bad. The part that maybe you're a hero for saving your sister, but you can only focus on the dark moment? Or... He stripped off his jacket and tossed it behind her onto the ground, only sparing a fleeting thought for the dry cleaning. He's so pretentious. The part when I said I'd drive through fire for you? She nodded, her eyes locked on his fingers where they were not unknotting his tie, then shoving the balled-up material into the right front pocket of his dress pants. Yeah, that part. What about it? He said. Her eyes lifted hesitantly. What if I said I would do the same for you? This is what it meant to be choked up, to have his sanity in the hands of another person, to do with what they wanted. I'd be fucking grateful. He caught her by the hips and dragged her close, hissing a breath when her belly finally met his aching leg. But I'd also lose my mind if you were ever in that kind of danger, so please don't ever say that out loud again. I can't. It's just... Okay. It was your analogy, Hallie teased, going up on her toes, a slow raking of tits and belly and hips up the front of his primed body, and he groaned loudly, there in the middle of the vineyard. Thank you for telling me that. Oh, Jesus, he couldn't take her whispered gratitude on top of his dick being hard. Who had sent this woman to kill him? He was hungry and desperate and ready to give up years of his life to get his hands on those breasts. I'll tell you anything you want. Just let me kiss that goddamn mouth. Let me get on top of you. I know, like, these scenes are serious, but, like, I just can't take Julian seriously. Like, if this were real life, personally, I'd laugh. I'd laugh at this man. I'd laugh at him. So glad you can't hear Min's inner monologue, because I fear I would roast them mercilessly. With a small sound of shock. Did she not understand he was dying? Hallie lurched higher onto her toes and gave up her mouth, letting him come from above and wreck it, broken and starved and needy. His hands trying to clutch and smooth every part of her at once, experience every inch. They tunneled through her hair and raked down her back, yanking her by the ass into the cradle of his lap, both of them gasping into the kiss over the miraculous friction they created, the chafe they kept alive with rubs and pushes and grinds. Tell me we're fucking tonight, Hallie, he gritted out, teeth pressed to her ear. Was your mouth always this dirty? She gasped. No. He urged her down onto the ground, and she went, landing flat on her back on the top of his spread-out jacket, her curls bouncing out in 90 directions, a sight that made his hands shake. It was so... her. And you can blame my colorful vocabulary on the fact that you've been bent over on your knees outside of my office window for weeks. He let his weight settle on top of her incredible curves, slowly, his breath escaping like an air from a tire puncture, his balls throbbing like a son of a bitch. Weeks. That is the standard flower planting position. He reached down, gathered the hem of her dress in his hand, and worked it up to her hips, immediately rocking into the space between her thighs, deprived at never having been there before. Being like this, with her, was where he belonged. And God, the way she moaned and arched her back, covered in moonlight and a flush, was the closest he's ever come to magic. Flower's the last thing on my mind when you're on all fours. He gritted out, rocking again, gratification thick in his stomach when she pressed her knees open, grabbing the sides of his waistband and pulled, urged, lifted. I'm thinking of your bare ass slapping against my stomach. Great, she stammered, in between hot rakes of their open mouths. I'll never be able to do my job again without blushing. Speaking of this blush, Christ, he could barely make out his own words. They were so slurred with lust, muffled into her neck as he traced a line downward with his tongue over the smooth patch behind her ear, the curve of her collarbone, the sweet-smelling hollow of her throat. How far down does it go? I don't know, she breathed. I've never checked. We better find out. Julian watched her face closely as he licked a path over the hills of her cleavage, needing to know they were together in this. Continuing. Hallie, are you wearing that goddamn polka dot bra? Yes? How did you? Groaning, he kissed her stiff nipples through the material of her dress, the fact that she'd worn that tormenting underwear turning his dick to stone. Let me take it off and suck them, sweetheart. This man can't be serious. Okay. She struggled to pull in a breath. Oh, wow. Key moment to pull out the endearment. He opened his mouth over the stiff bud, raking his lips side to side, groaning when it swelled. Grew sharper. I've been calling you that in my head for much longer. Just pull my top down already, she said in a rushing laugh that got his chest so heavily involved in the moment, even more than it already was. He had to press his face between her breasts and steady himself with her rapid-fire heartbeat, inhaling through his nose and out through his mouth until the squeeze turned bearable. Mostly. Julian? I know. He had no idea what these shame meant, only that Hallie's use of his name angered him even more, made his mouth eager for the taste of her tongue again, and he gave into it, traveling back up to her mouth for more kissing, more wild drawing of suction and wetness, then back down to her heaving tits. At some point they'd started working down the neckline of her dress together, or maybe the drag of his chest up and down had done it, because her breasts were almost free of her bodice and polka dot bra, so big and lush and sweet. He whispered a prayer before his first lick across her bare nipples. First part of you I saw up close, he muttered thickly. Last thing I want to see before I die. Julian, ever the romantic. She giggled. Yo, that's so girl-coded. And Julian accepted that he'd be going to hell someday, because Hallie giggling while he sucked her nipples, the polka dot bra pushing them up for his attention, his hands molding those perfect mounds thoroughly, was the hottest moment of his life. Nothing would ever top it. Although he was proven wrong a few seconds later when she started to whimper, her fingernails digging into his scalp, hips restless on the ground. Julian? That getting you wet? Well, if it was, now it's not. She nodded jaggedly, bottom lip clamped between her teeth. You gonna let me check? His finger where is he getting all this bravado from and like sexual mechanicisms? He's like a different person. It's being sus, low-key. His fingertips were already trailing down her inner thigh, massaging the inside of her knee, then tracing up towards the heat. I want you more than ready, Hallie. I'll play with them until the zipper of my pants is your worst enemy. Oh my god. The way she kind of melted into the ground and writhed her hips every time he said something dirty made it clear she loved it. And Julian loved it too. Yeah, we got that part. The freedom to say whatever came to his mind, wanting her to know what he was thinking, down to the letter. He never cared before, never spoken it much at all during the act. Now he couldn't seem to keep his mouth shut. Craving connection with her on every level available. Verbal, physical, emotional. His fingers found her then, massaging through the thin nylon of her panties, dampness soaking through to meet him. Yes, Jesus Christ, yes. So much of it that he dropped his face between her tits and moaned, parting the folds of her flesh with a gently sawing knuckle and teasing her clit. When her hips reared up off the ground and she sobbed, he moved on instinct, capturing her mouth in a rough kiss, knuckling that sensitive little bud over and over again. The wild way she gave herself over to the kiss made him wonder if... Was she already close? Yeah, okay. Julian paused with his mouth on top of hers. They inhaled and exhaled together, fast, faster, anticipation so real he could feel it pressing down on his spine. You come easy, don't you, Hallie? Looking her in the eye, he pulled down her panties just below her pussy, trapped around the tops of her thighs. I remember in the kitchen how sweet you got off, how quick. He parted her folds with his thumb, stroked the full length of her sex, and watched her eyes roll into the back of her head. You're not just beautiful and sexy. And Jesus, the fucking curves. With a nip and tug of her earlobe, Julian pushed his middle finger inside of her. You're a horny little thing, aren't you? Julian, She was saying his name, but he could only sort of hear it through the ringing in his ears. Tight. God, she was really tight. And the way her thighs jerked in around his hand like the sensation of his finger was foreign? No. But when he looked down into her face and saw she was holding her breath, visibly waiting for him to catch up, he knew. Hallie, you're a virgin? Damn! Really? Giving the virgin trope to Hallie is kind of crazy. A brief silence passed. Yes. Why wasn't he shocked? He shouldn't have been, right? This vital, spontaneous woman had somehow made it to age 29 without exploring a sensual side of herself that was very much alive and well. The woman was practically vibrating beneath him, every single part of her engaged in what they were doing. Maybe he was just too overcome with hunger for Hallie to dwell on something so useless as surprise. His focus remained locked on the fact that she had needs right now. She decided to let him handle them, and that was good enough. If anything, he just needed to be extra sure before he took her virginity. I'm her first. Did the crowding of pride in his throat make him a caveman? No. No, who wouldn't be fucking proud that a woman like Hallie had decided he was worthy for her first time? A man who didn't treasure this position didn't deserve it, and that was the last time he thought of men in general and Hallie in the same context, because his teeth were snapping at her neck as a result. Mine. Calm the hell down. Julian tried to inhale a steadying breath, but it brought her scent along with it and only succeeded in making him salivate. Pressed his fingers a little deeper inside of her just to watch the pulse jump at the base of her neck. Hallie. Lord, he sounded like the big bad wolf. Be 100% honest with me now. Are you sure about this? Fingers flexing on his shoulder, she nodded vigorously. Yes, positive. Thank God. Why do you sound so relieved? I thought you were going to be responsible and call a stop to everything. That would be the responsible thing to do, he agreed, even while biting a path down the center of her body, nipping at her tits, her belly, her thighs, before bringing the flat of his tongue up firmly between the folds of her sex. Your first time should be in a soft bed, somewhere familiar, comfortable. He pressed the V of his fingers over her flesh and strip of blonde hair, opening her up to him, and he could only wish for sunlight to see her better, to memorize every ripple and shadow. And here I am, getting ready to fuck you on the hard ground, flat on your back with your dress up around your waist. Aren't I, sweetheart? Before she could answer, he drew the tip of his tongue up the center of her pussy and left it poised on top of her clit for long seconds, before wiggling it roughly. And God help him, she came. The proof of it met his tongue unexpectedly, and he didn't think, just followed instinct by lapping at her, pushing her thighs as wide as he could get them, and going for broke, licking that swollen pleasure source until she whimpered at him to stop. Please. Out of his fucking mind, horny beyond belief, he rose up over her flushed body while fumbling with his belt, his wallet and the condom, ripping the foil packet open. She tried to help him, their hands knocking together, their mouths seeking each other for wet, illicit kisses that went straight to his head, both of them. I'm putting on a condom, but I'm going to blow where it's so deep and tight, it'll feel like I'm wearing nothing. Oh God, if I don't get inside you soon, don't even joke like that. Yo, she can't be serious. And so they were laughing in pure pain when he pressed his cock into her, the sound of amusement dying on a long guttural groan from Julian. Oh my fucking God. He barged into her neck, easing his hips closer, meeting the resistance of untried flesh, and stopping, panting inwardly, calling himself a bastard for taking something so perfect. But her fingers fisted in the elastic sides of his briefs and pulled him deep. So motherfucking deep. Her mouth moaning, his hips lifting, the insides of her knees grazing his ribcage, her eyelids fluttering. Fuck, oh fuck. That was when he started to spin out. Out of control. He was out of control. He thought he could do this.
Not my teacher giving me sass in Greek.
That's so funny.
Because I could ask him to say, I was like, because I wanted to know if I didn't have to take the final. He was like, and then he just said something in Greek. I don't know what it meant.
Google Translate it.
I tried it. I kept saying different things.
Okay, I'm recording right now.
Okay.
I love that for you. Let me just finish this and then we can talk. I have a few more.
Did you go to the gym?
No. We're gonna go probably this weekend. You dipping your cookie in ketchup?
Well, I sprinkled
Okay.
off.
Let me finish this. Close the
I don't
door.
like ketchup that much. I'm a Buffalo girl.
Okay. Oh, where were we in this intimate moment? Okay. He thought he could do this, throw himself headfirst into everything Hallie had made him feel, but he'd been foolish to underestimate the magnitude of it, with her flesh stretching around. Saying flesh during this moment, I don't know why, it's just making me creeped out. With her flesh stretching around him, her gaze locked on his for comfort, affection, and gratitude, and God forgive him, possessiveness almost buckled his heart. There was no schedule to fall back on, no pen and paper to take notes. There was nothing to do but lean into what she made him feel. Damn the outcome or consequences. He didn't have any tools available to build a dam. With each stroke of her fingers on his face, every kiss of his jaw and shoulders, she was stripping him of every last one of them. Hallie, he growled into her neck, starting to move, fisting her hair and starting to fuck her. He couldn't do anything else with her clutching at him like that, mewling every time he went deep. Was her virginity obvious? Yes. God, yes. He could barely get in and out. She was so fucking snug. But it was equally obvious that she was enjoying herself, enjoying him. Her eyes were glazed over, her lips chanting his name, and those silky soft thighs, they hugged him like they were never wanted him to leave. Or stop. In fact, they urged him faster, and he went, burying his tongue in her sweet mouth and kicking his hips into a gallop. You've been doing such bad things to my dick, sweetheart. Just bouncing around with those curls and your tight shorts, not a care in the world, huh? Well, you've got to deal with me now. You've got to let those beautiful tits out and deal with me, don't you? Yes, she gasped, her flesh tightening up around him, her hips impatient. A cue, permission to go harder, faster, and he did, pressing their moaning mouths together and increasing his pace, a shudder racking him the exact moment she learned her power. Learned that she could flex her pussy and turn him into an animal. You like that? She whispered. Yes, I fucking like that. He panted hoarsely. I love it. Again. And really it was a reckless request, because he forgot his own name after that. Forgot it was her first time and they weren't all that far from a public gathering. When she constricted her already too tight flesh around him, her eyes flashing with excitement over his desperate response, that was it. His fingers dug into the earth and he went blind, fucking to relieve the ache between his thighs, fucking to claim her as his own. No help for that. No rationalizing it. Mine, sweetheart. Mine, he grunted in her ear, scoring his teeth down the side of her neck. Who am I? He had no idea, only that this was right where he was supposed to be. With her. Even as his head spun in panic over the unknown threat, he couldn't stop. There would never be any stopping. She was salvation and homecoming and lust and woman. Hallie. Yes. What was he asking? No idea. But she knew. She knew and her body understood, her back arching so her clit could rub against his thrusting cock. This incredible virgin who'd learned her own body in advance, and he praised her for it, bathing her neck with his tongue and scooping his hands beneath her ass, anchoring them so he could angle down and stroke where she needed. Exultant when she whimpered brokenly in response and shook into another orgasm, her pussy clamping around him, making it impossible for him to do anything but pump deep and follow, the two of them shaking in the dirt together, mouths frantic, hands squeezing, trying to get through the other side. Relief like Julian felt shouldn't even exist. It was too potent, too powerful. How would he go about his daily life ever again, knowing this collision of power and weakness was available to him, to them? He tried not to collapse on top of her and failed, his body utterly replete of tension. But she welcomed him, their tongues moving together lazily in each other's mouths, her hands molding his ass like clay inside his loosened pants, with a sort of ownership that he couldn't bestow fast enough. I'm yours too, he said, still regaining his breath. Would you ever catch it again? In case I forgot to mention that. I read between the lines, she murmured drowsily. There's nothing to do but kiss her, savor the catch in her throat, for him. When she needed to breathe, he pulled back, studying her, still unable to break the connections of their bodies through, though he needed to soon. I love you like this, drowsy and pinned to the ground where you can't make trouble. Those tiny feminine muscles jumped along with the corner of her mouth. Are you sure? I take it back, he said in a gruff rush, his shaft swelling back to life. In a matter of minutes, he'd be capable of taking her again. Unbelievably, he needed to. More than he could remember needing anything. Even with his sweat still drying from the last time. This was love. This was infatuation. There was no way out, and he wasn't looking for an exit. No, he was sealing all of them shut. But was he going to fuck her again on the hard ground in the rapidly dropping temperature instead of caring for her like she deserved? Also no. As much as this was going to kill him, with a wince, Julie pulled out, took care of the condom. Come home with me, he said, watching it as she fixed her dress, covering love-bitten breasts and thighs chafed from the tear of his pants. Mine. Let me do this better. Wait, she blinked at him. There's a better? His hearty laugh echoed across the vineyard. And then there's a little pause. Okay. Virgin Hallie no more. And Julian is now for those that read Wolf Shifter books, is just a shifter now. Like, he's just got all this not aggression, what's the word I'm thinking of? Like, masculinity? Anyways. When they reached the lighted area surrounding the barn, he took stock of Hallie's appearance, pulling pieces of straw and mulch from her hair, dusting dirt off her calves and elbows. She did the same for him, though he'd sustained far less damage. He pulled her close and whispered in the shadow of the barn about how she should wear her hair to cover the love bite on her neck, their fingers tangling together, mouths unable to stop connecting, lips brushing, kisses deepening. Finally, sorry, my neck is bothering me. Finally, they managed to muster some decent behavior, holding hands on the way back into the barn, which was now empty. They stopped short. Well, not entirely empty. Natalie and the seal, August, right, were toe-to-toe, their noses inches apart, but this time they weren't flirting. No, he knew his sister's pissed-off posture when he saw it. Uh-oh, Hallie muttered. I was only making a suggestion, Natalie said, very succinctly, up at the hulking military man. I grew up on a vineyard. Fermentation is in my blood. Only problem with that, baby, is I didn't ask. Ooh, well, you should have asked someone because your wine tastes like demon piss. Yo, that's funny, though. Didn't stop you from drinking a gallon of it, he pointed out calmly. Maybe I need to be drunk to consider sleeping with you. The man grinned, or bared his teeth, hard to tell from this distance. Offer is still open, Natalie, as long as you promise to stop talking. With that, Natalie threw wine in August's face. Julian shot forward, no idea how the seal was going to react, but he worried for nothing because the man didn't even flinch. Instead, he licked the wine off his chin and winked at her. Tastes fine to me. I fear I'm more invested in Natalie and the seal. I'm gonna be honest, their storyline would interest me more. August and Natalie got that fire. We love that good banter. I hate you. The feeling is mutual. Angling her face towards the rafters, she shrieked through her teeth. I can't believe the things I was going to let you do to me. That gave August pause. He gave Natalie a very distinct once-over that Julian immediately wished he could erase from his brain. Just out of curiosity, August started. Those things were... All right, Julian cleared his throat. I'll stop you both there. Where have you been? Natalie cried out, throwing up her hands at her brother's approach. You left me here with this Neanderthal, and... She spied Hallie over his shoulder, and her lips twitched with humor. Oh, I see. Well, at least one of us got laid. The back of Julian's neck heated. Time to go, Nat. She already started in his direction, but her steps slowed now. You haven't called me that since we were in high school. Natalie shook herself and kept walking, past Julian out of the barn to where Hallie waited. She didn't turn around once, so she didn't see August's regretful expression, but Julian did. It significantly turned down the volume of what he'd been planning to say, though not completely. Talk to my sister like that again and I'll break your jaw. Julian, where are you getting all this bravado? That's the word I'm thinking of. This bravado all of a sudden. Okay, you're gonna go up against a Navy SEAL. Good job. Good luck. August's eyebrows shot up, as if unexpectedly impressed, and Julian left the barn. He found Natalie and Hallie leaning up against the side of his rental, where he parked it along the main road. Hallie was making Natalie laugh, but he still spied a fair amount of tension racking his sister's mouth. Hey, Hallie rubbed his sister's shoulders and came towards him, tightening everything south of his chin. God, she was beautiful. You should go take care of your sister. Anyway, I've never left the dogs overnight. I'm not sure if it would be a popular move. Jesus, he muttered. Something's going on with my piercing. What? When you spend nights in my house, you'll have to bring them, won't you? She peered up at him. Worth it? Bring a whole circus, Hallie. Even after everything they'd done tonight, a breathless sort of surprise danced across her features. It wouldn't be that far off. Worry cut through the surprise, but she tried to hide with a smile. Are you sure you're ready for that? Yes. That's what he said, and he damn well meant it, because he was ready for Hallie in his life. In fact, her being there felt long past due. If there was a whisper of self-doubt lingering, drifting to the present from that night 4 years ago, he was more than willing to ignore it in favor of kissing his girlfriend goodnight. Okay. That's chapter 18. Let's see how many pages are in chapter 19. Also, I have to blow my nose or something, because something's going on with it. Oh my god, chapter 19 is long as fuck. And this video got really long because I had several interruptions. I think there's like a fuzzy or something on it, like in the piercing. Fuck it. I'm gonna get water and then let's do it. A cookie. I also realized why my nose feels that way. Didn't take my calcium. She'll survive. Down the hatch. They're so big. That's what Hallie said. Okay. Alright. I feel like I just factory reset it. Okay. Chapter 19. How are we feeling, guys, after that last chapter? It was a lot. Yeah, I thought so too. Yeah, good interpretation. Okay. Hallie stood in the moonlight, reading through her final secret admirer letter. And yes, they would definitely be the last one. She was coming clean. After the wine tasting... What is going on? I'm so sorry. I don't know what's happening. After the wine tasting, she'd gone straight home and confessed everything to a piece of lined notebook paper and walked right back out the door with it, refusing to give herself a chance to back out. But God, did her actions sound stupid in black and white. Letter time. Dear Julian, this is Hallie. I'm the one who's been writing you the letters. You're welcome to hire a handwriting analysis expert, but I think once you read through the full contents, you'll agree no sane person would open up to something so completely asinine unless it was true. I had a massive crush on you in high school. Oh, we're going right to it. Okay. When she said she's coming clean, she meant it. I don't understand why she doesn't just tell him in person. I guess this is like their thing now. I don't know. I had a massive crush on you in high school, like planning weddings in homeroom massive. Meeting you as an adult, it seemed obvious that I'd imagined the spark between us, or that we'd grown too far in opposite directions to ever meet in the middle. Now I realize that love between adults means embracing flaws as well as the sparkly stuff. You are a river that flows in one direction. There is some turbulence under the surface, but your current keeps you moving, positive you're going the right way. Meanwhile, I'm a swirling eddy. I don't know what that is. Unable to choose a course. But whirlpools have a surface too. They have an underneath. I just wanted to expose it to you and see if we could relate. I wanted to relate to you, because everything I said in those letters was true. I do admire you. I always have. You're so much more than you give yourself credit for. You're thoughtful and heroic and fair. The kind of person who wants to be better and sees their own faults. And sees their own faults is someone I want to spend time with. They'll complement mine if we want it to be bad. What? They'll compliment mine if we want it bad enough. I'm sorry I lied to you. I hope I haven't ruined everything. Because while I thought I was in love with high school Julian, I didn't know him. I know the man, though, and now I understand the difference between love and infatuation. I felt both for you, 15 years apart. Please forgive me. I'm trying to change. Hallie. That was actually sweet, Hallie. Like, honestly, I can get behind Hallie. It's just Julian that's, like, giving me whiplash. Like, don't get me wrong. New Julian's got something going for him. But, like, am I supposed to believe that's the same person? Anyways. The last line had been erased and rewritten several times. Something about that vow didn't sit quite right with Hallie. She was trying to make decisions with more confidence and to take a moment to think before making potentially disastrous ones. She even sat down and started a color-coded diagram of her plans for the library garden this morning. But there would always be an element of chaos inside of her. It had been there since she could remember, and even her grandmother hadn't been able to contain it. Not entirely. Did she want to change for a man? Nope. Except, he never started to change for her. It's come to my attention that I am far more wrong for you than the other way around, Hallie. You're nothing short of breathtaking, unique and beautiful and bold, and I'm a goddamn idiot if I ever made you feel otherwise. Let me learn. Did it qualify as changing for a man if the man was rearranging himself at the same time? Or was that simply the nature of compromise? There was only one way to find out, and that was trying. Giving their relationship a chance, up close and personal. No more hiding behind letters, no more hiding, period. They were vulnerable around each other. Had been since the beginning. And that was scary for people like them. But there was also a breath of possibility whispering in her ear, telling her that complete vulnerability would be glorious. It could be totally right with Julian. A chance to grow alongside someone, to adjust together until they met in the middle. Emotionally, they had places to go. Physically, they had that part down real well. She dropped her defenses in the vineyard tonight like a bad habit. Thinking about what they had done, about breathless words spoken in chokes and rushes, not even a cold breeze could cool her cheeks. In all of her fantasies, she'd never imagined intimacy like Julian had shown her tonight. That desperate, down in the dirt, literally, slacking of needs. She never expected to relinquish herself so totally to lust, to sensation, or to have the wild feelings in her chest play such a part in what her body craved. Standing there in the darkness of the path, she wanted him again. Not just the release of tension he'd give her, but the press of his weight, the scent of salt and wine and cologne, their fingers intertwining, his hips twisting and bucking between her thighs. Sorry, my throat is just having a hard time today. I just feel like there was no transition. My foot's asleep really bad. Okay. Standing there in the darkness of the path, she wanted him again. Not just the release of tension he grew, but the press of his weight, the scent. Oh, I already said that. Hallie squinted into the distance towards Voss Vineyard and could just make out the silver outline of the guest house. What? Yeah. Wait, can you put this in the kitchen? What was I? No. She sees the Voss Vineyard and makes out the sliver of the guest house. She could go there now, knock on his door and hand deliver the letter. Maybe she owed him that, especially after he'd shown up tonight at the tasting with flowers and an apology. She could do the same, couldn't she? Face the music in person. And the last thing she wanted was to start down the road toward her relationship with a lie. She felt the increasing strain of that deception with every passing moment. Hallie took a few steps in the direction of the guest house, her bravery slipping away like pebbles falling from a hole in her pocket. Eventually she stopped, the breeze blowing curls across her line of vision. Julian might read the letter and need time to process everything, to really consider her words. Would she be putting him on the spot by standing over his shoulder while he read it? Wouldn't it be better to end this journey how it started, with a letter? You didn't get a moment when he came with letters and was like, with flowers and was like, I'm ready. Let's do this. Decision made, Hallie tucked the letters as securely as possible into the designated stump crack and jogged up the path, trying to put as much distance as possible between her and the confession before she changed her mind and took it back. What if the admirer just sort of vanished? Stopped writing. Julian would never know what she'd done. Nope, you're not getting off that easy. In a matter of hours, her craziest idea yet would be revealed to Julian, and she'd have to hope he still wanted the circus. After returning home from her letter drop mission, Hallie had slept fitfully, the dog seeming to judge her from the end of the bed. She'd woken up to find she'd overslept well into the afternoon, her stomach gathering like wool with the numbers on the clock. Julian would be getting ready for his run, mere minutes from discovering her secret. She got up and walked the dogs, fed them, brewed coffee, and sat in her backyard among the periwinkle hydrangeas, legs curled up beneath her on the patio furniture. Her fingers drummed on the side of her mug, a rapid-fire heartbeat in her chest. Julian must have found the letter by now. He was probably back home reading through it for the 8th time, wondering how he'd mistaken psychosis for charm. Any second now her phone would ring and he would very curtly attempt to end things, and while she wouldn't blame him, she would try to change his mind. That was one item she managed to resolve in the middle of her sleepless night. Would she fight him if he tried to break up with her? Yes, of course. She was worth a little vexing, right? She was a slightly frazzled, often muddied gardener who could laugh easily even while carrying around a lake of hurt inside of her. A lake of hurt? Damn. You good, Hallie? I think I do have the blood nose. Sorry. I'm dying. Anyways. There were often no rhyme or reason to her professional ideas, but didn't they turn out beautiful enough? Likewise, when she did something ridiculous like steal cheese or begin a secret admirer letter-writing campaign, didn't she mean well? Yes. She liked her place. She loved her people. She just needed to find a better way to channel her inherited impulses. She would, too, because sitting there in her backyard and waiting for the man she loved to discover her lies was torturous, and she never wanted to feel that way again. When noon rolled around and there was no call or front door arrival from Julian, Hallie set down her stone-cold cup of coffee and dialed Lavinia. "Afternoon, love," Lavinia sang, the cash register dinging in the background. "How was it tasting last night?" I don't know what accent that was. She heard a distant echo of Julian groaning her name. "Great," she responded throatily. "It was great. Listen, has Julian jogged past the shop yet?" "Yes, ma'am. He was earlier today, actually." Someone ordered a box of assorted donuts. "Coming right up," Lavinia said before dropping her voice. "Your man ran past the window shirtless at 11:15. I remember the exact time because that was the moment I forgot my wedding vows. Pretended to adjust the angle of the special boards on the sidewalk, but really I was watching the professor's sweaty back muscles flex in the sunshine. There's no reason you should have all the fun." "Couldn't agree more." She paused in the middle of her pacing. "He was shirtless?" "Utterly, beautifully, that will be $13.50. You ogled my boyfriend and I'm supposed to pay you?" "I was talking to the customer. And who are you calling boyfriend?" Her tone grew more and more excited. "Is that official then?" "Well," Lavinia groaned. "Fuck's sake, woman, what now?" I confessed everything. In a final, no-holds-barred, secret admirer letter. If he went jogging past almost an hour ago, he should have found it by now, in which case I might no longer be his girlfriend, at least during this estrangement period wherein I wiggle my way back into his good graces, and we all have a big laugh about this at Thanksgiving. "You've thought this through, which is unusual." Pacing again, Hallie pressed a palm to her churning stomach. "I deserve that." Her friend told the customer to have a good day. "Well, I might be able to shed some light on why your momentary boyfriend hasn't called yet, cursing you to eternal damnation." She paused, sounding a little smug. "He took a different route." Aw, I feel like he was trying to be respectful because he didn't want to, read the letter because it felt like cheating on Hallie, so he took a different way completely. Or maybe I'm giving him too much credit. Hallie skidded to a stop. "What do you mean he took a different route?" "On his run. He didn't turn down the usual path. Let me get this straight. He was shirtless and he deviated? He shirtless deviated?" "That is correct, which leads me to my next question." In the background, the door slapped shut and Hallie heard the flicker of a lighter. "How good was the sex?" Hallie sputtered. "What?" "Babe, I have experience in these man's matters. I left London to find a husband because I had effectively exhausted the search, if you know what I mean. No stones left unturned." Well, that needs to be on a t-shirt. Point is, Lavinia plowed on, undeterred, I know a man who's been laid well when I spot one. He stirred my pheromones from 2 blocks away. Okay, you're planning to leave Julian stones unturned, right? Oh, shut up. I'm a happily married woman, just having a peek. Hallie heard the cackle at the end of Lavinia's cigarette as she inhaled. Again, my point? You inspired him not only to run about town like a lion who just made it a lioness, but you inspired him to take a different path. Pleasure warred with distress just below Hallie's collarbone. But he won't find my letter that way. You'll have to tell him in person. Not 2 seconds later, Hallie's doorbell rang. Ooh, child. Was my eye a little okay there? Did you see that? Of course, the dogs lost their minds. It wasn't very often that someone rang her doorbell. Even UPS had wised up and started dropping off packages unannounced to avoid the canine drama that ensued at the press of a button. And this time, however, as the dog sirens went off around her, they were no match for the explosives going off in her belly. Julian. Somehow she knew Julian stood on her stoop. She confirmed it a moment later when she looked through the peephole, getting a magnifying eye full of Adam's apple and stubble that made her fingers twitch, her inner thighs growing ticklish at the memory of having his 5 o'clock shadow there. Julian? She asked, unnecessarily, stalling perhaps in an attempt to find out if he doubled back, got his typical route, and found the letter. Yeah, it's me. He chuckled warmly, a sound that reached through the door and made her tingly. Sorry for setting off the alarm. Having recognized Julian's voice, the boy's tone had changed from defensive to excited. Why did that make her heart swell to the size of a balloon? They liked him. She loved him. It definitely hadn't found the letter. Which meant she'd have to tell him in person, as in right now, before what was happening between them got any more serious. Oh man, oh man, oh man. Should she open with a joke? Always open with a joke. Unlocking the door, she cracked it an inch and found the most devastatingly handsome man in existence staring down at her. Just remember that no matter what happens when you come inside, I have a lint roller. Consider me warned. Biting her lip, she opened the door the remaining distance and stepped back, gesturing for him to come inside. He had to duck slightly to get beneath the doorframe, like a giant being welcomed into a dollhouse. And that feat continued as he stepped closer to Hallie, looking over her head and slowly scanning her cottage from left to right. It's exactly what I thought it would look like, he said finally, voice pitched low. Colorful and homey, and slightly cluttered. Her mouth fell open on a gasp. Are you serious? I just performed the biggest clean of my lifetime. Julian was laughing, lines fanning out around his eyes. That wasn't a criticism. Well, the smile on his mouth dropped in degrees, and he reached up to thread his fingers through her hair. How could it be when it reminds me of you? The organ in her chest flopped over with all the grace of a cinder block. You're calling me cluttered, and I'm expected to find that romantic? He grazed their lips together, those long fingers spearing farther into her hair until he cradled her scalp, controlling the angle of her neck. Gently he tugged, pulling her head back, and then, oh Lord, he ran his open mouth up the front of her throat. If the clutter is yours, I want it, he whispered against her mouth. If you're late, I don't care. Just fucking show up. Hallie's knees, ankles, and hips nearly gave out, all at the same time. Especially when his grip tightened in her hair, angling her one way and his mouth another, devouring her like a meal. The kiss was leashed, but Hallie could feel the physical vibrations and knew it cost him a heaping dose of willpower to hold back. And she didn't want that. With his stubble rasping against her chin and his minty tongue licking into her mouth, she wanted more of what they'd done last night. Badly. But he ended the kiss with a growl before she could shed her robe and demand to be taken, his forehead pressing down on hers. I took your... Like she don't know. I took your virginity on the ground last night, Hallie. Objection, I gave you my virginity on the ground last night, Julian. Fair enough, he seemed to be performing a serious study of curls on the top of her head, that deep valley present between her brows. But I didn't use them as much care as I would have. As you would have normally? What do you mean, normally? He frowned. That implies that there's even the remotest comparison between you and anyone else. Oh, okay. Okay, Julian. You got game. I'll give you that. So I'm abnormal now? Oh, girl. So I'm abnormal now, she breathed, rearranging her entire definition of romance. Apparently it was not wine and roses, it was this man telling her she was cluttered, perpetually late, and unusual. Definitely that. He took a long sampling of Hallie's mouth until she was weaving drunkly on her feet. I meant to say I didn't use as much care as I would have liked. The heel of his hand scrubbed down her spine, fisting the material of her robe. If I hadn't let what I feel for you build until I was out of control. Hallie stared deliriously up at the ceiling, her brilliant, beautiful lover speaking a uniquely blunt version of poetry into her ear. And she was supposed to tell him about the letters? Oh my god, girl, please, you just gotta get this over with. Just tell him that they come from her right now. She was supposed to just shatter this perfect bond of intimacy and honesty that they formed. This sense that everything was right in the world when they were skin to skin, mouth to mouth. But you haven't been honest, not entirely. Sure, every word of those letters had come straight from the heart, but she misrepresented herself, let him believe he was writing to a perfect stranger. And worse, when he quoted her exact words, she let the opportunity to be truthful pass. Well, she couldn't regret it more than she did in this moment, when he held her so tightly. She had to limit her breaths. I loved what we did last night, she whispered, because at least that was the truth. And since it felt so good to tell him the truth, she gave him more. I want to do it again. We will, he said quickly, snaking a forearm beneath her butt and drawing Hallie onto her toes, aligning their laps, tilting his hips, their breaths accelerating like twin engines between them. We damn well will, Hallie, but I'm taking you out first. You are? She felt him thick in between them. You have a plan, don't you? Bitch, of course this man has a plan. Be so real. Okay. Can't drink water no more. Yes, I'm setting the tone. His mouth swooped down and caught her lips, delivering a dizzying onslaught of strokes from his tongue. And the tone is, you're my girlfriend, not a girl I hook up with in a field and send home in an Uber. All right? I couldn't sleep last night. It felt like I'd left everything undone with you. Last night, when she'd been dropping off her confession letter at the stump. Tell him. He was being so honest, and she needed to do the same. But would telling him the truth only ruin everything? At the very least, she could bank a few more kisses before dropping the bomb. I did feel undone, she said, dazed from the prolonged contact, the shape of him, the heat they were generating. I felt done. His rich laugh against her mouth sent a warm shiver down her spine. Damn. Damn? I don't want to leave you. He wound a curl around his index finger and let it spring free, watching it happen in fascination. But there's a luncheon this afternoon in Calistoga. It's the 20th anniversary of my father forming the Napa Valley Association of Vintners. I thought your father was in Italy. He is. Natalie and I are accepting the honor on his behalf. I'm making a speech. The trench between his eyebrows now was accompanied by two more. I told my mother I would. What's bothering you about it, doing it? A gruff sound came from his throat. He took his time as if trying to pinpoint the exact source of irritation. Napa likes reminders of tradition. My father and grandfather were a huge part of establishing St. Helena as a wine destination. I'm not denying that. They're not the ones who kept it running when it barely had a pulse, though. You're talking about your mother. She would be recognized just as much as Dalton, more possibly at this stage. For a moment he remained deep in thought, then cleared his throat, looking at her expression suddenly formal. Would you come with us? To the luncheon? Yes. Are you sure? He brushed his thumb across her bottom lip, appearing riveted by the crease that ran down the middle. If I've learned anything since we met for a second time, Hallie, it's that I'm much, much happier when you're with me. Oh, mama. He meant every word of that, too, didn't he? His honesty was so arresting. All she could do for long moments was stare. Obviously, after that admission, she was going to let the luncheon come hell or high water. She could be there to help him through a difficult task. She wanted that responsibility, that privilege. She did a mental inventory of her closet. How long do I have to get ready? Visibly eager to calculate time, Julian looked at his watch. 21 minutes. Oh my god, she said, pushing away from him. Todd picked up on her nervous energy and started to howl. Can you choose something out of my closet while I take a shower? She shouted the second half of the question through her en-suite bathroom door. Whatever's appropriate for the dress code. A moment later, there was a thud on the floor of her bedroom. Hallie, are you aware that half of your possessions have been stuffed into this closet? Quickly, she flipped on the shower spray. What? I can't hear you. Muffled grumbling. With a smile on her face, she pinned up her hair, showered, dried off, and applied some quick makeup. Her favorite black bra was hanging on the back of the door in the bathroom, and she put it on, wrapping a towel around the rest of her. She hesitated with her hand on the knob, wondering if it was too soon to walk around in front of him in a towel. With time constraints being what they were, did she have a choice? Blowing out a breath, she pushed into the bedroom, and there was Julian Voss, sitting on her bed with a flower print cocktail dress draped across his lap, as if he'd walked right out of her fantasies. Tall and dark and serious against the girlish white comforter. I have no idea if... He trailed off, the lump in his throat moving up and down, fingers curling into fists on the edge of her bed. You have no idea of what? She said. If this dress passes as business casual. He watched her move to the dresser and tug open her top drawer, selecting a pair of thin, nude-color hipsters that would work for the outfit he picked. I just want to see you in it. Hallie gasped. The last part was said against her bare shoulder. When did he cross the room? I love that dress, she said in an effort. It's a good choice. His hand closed around the knot of her towel, gripped and twisted, his mouth skating down the slope of her neck. Can I see you without this on? Self-consciousness tried to ruin the party. Of course it did. She had never been totally naked in front of a man before, not in the light at least. And while she loved her body, she loved it clothed more than she loved it unclothed. When she could control what and how much people saw of her thighs and stomach and butt, could control how material sat against her curves, if he removed the towel, everything would be on display down to her last dimple. Yo, preach, queen! The most realistic thing so far about this book. Hallie, you can say no. It's stupid to be nervous. After last night, it's not stupid. He kissed the area behind her ear, biting the spot gently. Does it blow my mind that you're hesitant to show me your naked body when I would swim across a lake of fire for it? A little. Her face warmed. You might be picturing something else, though. She felt him frown against her shoulder. Would it help you if you knew what I was picturing? I don't know. Maybe? His mouth settled in the hair above her ear. I think you're soft. No, I know you're soft. I think you work hard in the sun and the dirt, and it shows in your hands and calves and shoulders. But the fact that you're a woman is also very fucking obvious. You have these incredible tits. He slid his hand up the front of her towel and slowly squeezed each mound, bringing her nipples to attention. You've got hips. They kind of let me a little extra rough last night. Her vision started to double, then triple, the perfume bottles on top of her dresser multiplying into an army. I can still feel my sweaty stomach sliding up and down on top of your belly. I already love every inch of it. I probably left some chafing behind to prove it, huh? She managed a dazed nod. You show me when you're ready, sweetheart. His hand dropped, fingertips trailing up the side of her thigh, towards her wetness. This she wasn't afraid of. This she wasn't afraid for him to know, to see and feel. They were past the point of pretending they didn't turn each other on, and right now she was so far over the borderline of turned on, she needed a passport. In the meantime, can I leave you with a final thought? Yes, she whispered. His huge hand closed around her sex, the whole thing. He just swallowed it up in his grip and held it. Hard. I know every little jiggle of this body. Oh, no. Not the right thing to say. No. I know every little jiggle of this body. They've taken turns making my cock hard. One by fucking one. He clutched firmly enough to make her whimper. Your curves shake when I'm packing this thing tight. I know it for a fact now. The parts you nerve to show me are actually what make me hard, Hallie. Slowly, so slowly, he parted her flesh with his middle finger and dragged that digit through her soaked valley. You think about that until tonight. Secret admirer who? Involuntarily, the letters were pushed to the back of her mind, to be thought about again tomorrow? Definitely tomorrow. Okay, well, that was chapter 19. She's, again, still making bad decisions and prolonging this story. And that's a choice. That's definitely a choice. I'm going to read chapter 20 because it's quick and to get us caught up. But, Hallie, oh Hallie, my girl. And I'm sorry, I know this got very long, but you could pause and come back at a different time. No one's forcing you. You don't gotta be here. But thank you for being here. Okay. Chapter 20. When Julian woke up that morning, he thought his biggest challenge would be the speech he was about to deliver. He put together some acknowledgments for the association recognizing Dalton Voss, their founding member, people Julian didn't know who greatly admired his father. He was accustomed to that, to smiling and agreeing with his admirers who spoke of Dalton's ingenuity, his revolutionary techniques, and dedication to quality. But as an adult man who knew a lot more about responsibility, it had grown harder to grin and bear the compliments about his father. On the way through the lobby of the resort winery, he'd shaken hands with winemakers and critics who spoke Dalton's name as if they were conferring about a saint. But it turned out trying to navigate the current moves of the three extremely different women in his life was even more difficult. His mother sat to his left, a smile glued so securely to her face she looked almost maniacal. Natalie was already on her second helping of Cabernet and appeared to be looking very intently for the meaning of life in the bottom of the glass. And then there was Hallie. She was on his right, her eyes on the speaker at the front of the ballroom, but there was a very distinct pinkness scaling the back of her neck, probably because his eyes were most definitely not on the speaker. nowhere in the vicinity whatsoever. They were on those little curls at the nape of her neck, and she obviously felt him staring. Before they left her cottage, she'd worked her hair up into some sort of twist on the top of her head, and he'd never seen those extra small ringlets of blonde up close before. If they were not sitting at the very front of a watchful audience, he would press his face to the spot from which they sprung and inhale the hell out of her. To say she looked good in the dress he picked would be an unforgivable understatement. Did she realize the pink and green flowers splashed across the front of her dress correspond with the exact parts his hands were dying to touch? Although he suspected the flowers could be in any location he would want to touch that exact place, because every inch of her consumed and fascinated him. Julian's fingers twitched in his lap, and he tamped down the urge to wind one of those curls around the same finger he touched her with earlier. Christ, they were going to call him up on stage any minute to make a speech, and he had a semi. Because of ringlets? So he needed to stop thinking of Hallie in that towel with no panties on. Feeling as if he had some sort of fever, Julian removed his suit jacket and hung it on the back of Hallie's chair, liking the way it looked there a little too much. A man didn't hang his jacket on the back of a woman's chair unless they were together, and now the room knew. Yeah, they're all watching. They're all really trying to figure out where you put that suit jacket, Julian. And now, secret's out, man. Damn, can't take that back. And that satisfied something in Julian he never knew existed. Mine. He said that to her last night in the vineyard, and it rang in his head now until he forced a swallow and tore his eyes from the nape of her flushed neck. Later. Julian let out a slow breath and turned his attention to Natalie and Corinne. His sister was now building a fort out of sugar packets and cocktail napkins, and he could see her nervous actions weren't lost on Hallie, who sent him a look of concern over her shoulder. Nor had they gone unnoticed by his mother, whose pasted-on smile had dimmed somewhat during the introductory speech. And if this moment, these few seconds in time, were taking place a month ago, he might have been thinking of nothing but the pacing of his prepared words, the schedule of the luncheon and how it fit into his day, the routine he would need to complete upon arriving back at the guest house later. But this string of seconds wasn't happening a month ago. They were right now. And he wouldn't trade this moment for any other. Background noise and movement in the ballroom blurred everything except for the woman surrounding him. He reached for Hallie's hand beneath the table. Then, deciding it wasn't enough to have only that one connection with her, he moved his chair closer until her scent was stronger and inhaled deeply. All moments were not equal. Every second was not a grain of sand in an hourglass. Time was bigger than him. Maybe time wasn't something that could be controlled at all. It was about making time matter with the people he cared about. The speaker called Julian's name from the podium, and he stood, took a few steps before realizing he was still holding on to Hallie's hand. He nearly dragged her off the seat. Sorry. He bent his head over her knuckles and kissed them, viewing the rapid intake of her breath and parting of her lips with the clarity of a man who'd just thrown out the script. Or had it been thrown out for him? He wasn't totally sure, and ironically, he didn't have time to figure it out. Julian accepted a plaque from the speaker. They stood shoulder to shoulder and posed for a flurry of photographs before he found himself in front of the microphone. He angled it higher to accommodate his height and set the plaque down on the podium. That's when he realized the note cards containing bullet points for his speech were in the pocket of the jacket hanging on the back of Hallie's chair. That really should have thrown him off, but he only found himself looking down at the table of women with a sense of freedom. The hell with this speech. Thank you very much for this honor. My father is grateful to the NVAV for recognizing his early contribution to the association after 20 years of success. He sent his appreciation from Italy. Julian paused, tracing a finger with a gold engraving. I'm not going to accept this recognition on his behalf, though. I'm going to accept it on behalf of my mother. Some murmuring started around the ballroom, heads ducking toward each other, whispers ensuing behind hands. Julian didn't really see any of it because he was busy watching Hallie and Natalie and Corinne. People. His people. Damn, this boy wised up fast! Mad respect to Julian, honestly, right now. Honestly. Like, his 180 has been crazy. But good crazy. Corinne appeared to be shell-shocked, but there was a distinct sheen in her eyes that, in turn, created an odd prickle in his throat. Natalie's house of sugar packets had lost the battle of gravity, and finally, Hallie. God, he was so glad she was there, was smiling at him, her knuckles white in her lap. She was outshining the entire room, so beautiful he stumbled over his words and simply stared. What the hell had he been about to say? Focus. My mother picked up the pieces after the fire 4 years ago, he continued. It might not be her family name on the label, but her fingerprints are on every bottle that leaves this vineyard. I can promise you that. Along with the hard work of our manager, Manuel, and the grounds crew that cultivate the grapes, as if the last name were Voss, too. The vineyard only thrives because of them, because of Corinne Voss, and as much as we appreciate this honor, she should be acknowledged here today, and every day. Thank you. Little pause. I'm just saying, it would have been added to the drama if you'd thrown the plaque across the ballroom into the wine glass pyramid, Natalie said from the other side of the table, all while signaling the waiter for another round of drinks. Instead of staying for the free luncheon, they sensed the chill in the air and decided to find a local restaurant instead. You offended the wine gods today, bro. They're going to demand a sacrifice as payment. Anyone know any virgins? At that, Hallie promptly choked on her Sauvignon Blanc. Doing his best to remain expressionless, Julian squeezed her leg under the table. Not a single one. You? Not since our mother made me go to band camp in 10th grade, and I'm pretty sure the virgins were no longer innocent once it ended. His sister fell back in her seat a little. Band camp. An orgy with flutes. Lower your voice, Natalie, Corinne hissed, but there was a sparkle in her eye that hadn't been there prior to the luncheon. And that was a very reputable band program. You must be exaggerating. We secretly called it Bang Camp, Mother. Corinne spat out her sip of wine, only managing to catch the tail end of spray with her napkin. Jesus Christ, she choked out. Please spare the knowledge that you participated in any kind of banging. Unless it was drum-related, Hallie qualified, making Natalie laugh. Julian tugged her closer in the booth until their thighs were pressed together, her shoulder tucked beneath his armpit, close enough to count. There. What you said today, Julian? Corinne said abruptly, some light color staining her cheeks. You didn't have to do that. My work at the winery has been hard, but it was never a burden. It's very rewarding. Rewarding work can still be acknowledged, Julian said. Yes, his mother shifted in her seat, but I didn't need it to be pointed out publicly. He shook his head. Of course not. That being said, it was very nice. She reached for the bread basket, then seemingly decided against it, fussed with her hair instead. I didn't mind it. Natalie buried her face in a cloth napkin. Your son makes a dramatic speech in your honor in front of the foofiest winos in Napa, and all you could say is, it was nice? I believe I said, very nice. Why are we the way that we are? Natalie mused at the ceiling. Corinne rolled her eyes at Natalie's dramatics. Would you rather we hugged constantly and had things like movie nights? I don't know, Natalie muttered. Maybe? Just to experiment? Surprisingly, his mother didn't seem inclined to drop the subject of togetherness right away. Well, I need my children to stick around a while for that, if they are so inclined. She folded her hands on the top of the table, her gaze fixing on Julian. Julian, your fresh set of eyes in the vineyard is already making a difference. We have a plan, and I can't remember the last time I could say that. I hope we can put your father's harsh words where they belong. In the past. Forgotten. You aren't merely welcome to help manage the winery. I would really like that. I hope it's not temporary. Julian could feel Hallie's questioning eyes on the side of his face. She was likely wondering what exactly his father had said to him after the fire, after you pulled Natalie out of the shed where she'd been cornered by flames. That's when the second half of the anxiety hit. Making up for lost time, the adrenaline wearing off, the numbness stealing in, rendering him useless to everyone when they needed him most. It had all happened right there in front of his family. You've always been a fucking head case, haven't you? Jesus Christ, look at you. Pull yourself together, sticking to teaching and just stay away from what I built, alright? Stay away from the vineyard. Yes, he now was determined to help revitalize the winery with or without the approval of his father. But with that niggle of doubt, like wiggle, without that wiggle of doubt in his abilities ever truly go away, maybe, maybe not. But his independent mother was openly asking for help. She really needed it, and he wanted to give it. Wanted to bring the land of his legacy back from the brink of failure and help it thrive. For so long he hadn't allowed himself to miss the place, the process. But just like Natalie said to the seal last night, fermentation was in his blood. And yeah, last but certainly far from least, Hallie was here. I'm not going anywhere, he said, looking down at the woman herself, letting her know, I'm staying, we're doing this. God, she was beautiful. He couldn't stop staring. Natalie coughed into her fist, effectively breaking the spell between them. Let's circle back to my days in Bang Camp. Julian shook his head at Natalie. Let's not. It was bad enough watching my sister's attempts at flirting this week. Not once, but twice. Now I sat up straighter. Attempts? Julian's mouth twitched. I'll let the end result speak for itself. Oh, you're the expert, are you? His sister sputtered a moment before her attention zipped to Hallie. Since my brother seems to be implying that he's an expert at flirting, please tell us about his masterful technique. Hallie dove in without a single hesitation, flattening hand to her chest. Well, first, he forgot we knew each other in high school. That really got the ball rolling. But then, she fanned her face. He criticized my garden technique and called me chaotic. That really sealed the deal. Memory stomped to the forefront of his mind, his stomach rolling. He turned to Hallie to apologize, but she spoke again before he got there. Unfortunately, he foiled my plan to ignore him when he brought 3 cases of wine from my favorite shop on Grapevine Way. Corked, They'd been in danger of closing down for a while, and it was my grandmother's favorite place. I told him that, never knowing he would have business cards made for Lorna and finagle you all into passing them out at Winedown. And then have a brand new awning installed, giving the place a much-needed facelift that would triple her business overnight. Julian realized his jaw was in his lap and snapped his mouth shut. You knew? I knew. He grunted, finding it difficult to look at her in public with that shy gratitude on her gorgeous face. He didn't need credit for his deeds, but the proof that they'd served their purpose and made her happy? God, he'd choose her smile over oxygen right here now. Any day of the week. And if she thought she was happy now, tonight could not come fast enough. Why didn't you say anything? I was holding out for Cork's new line of merch, of course. T-shirts and corkscrews would be a good start, he said gruffly. When did he get close enough to kiss her? With a hard clearing of his throat, Julian put an appropriate distance between them. But that distance didn't last very long, because his sister, wine drunk as usual, said something next that made Hallie scoot closer. Don't forget about how he masterminded children's story time at Winedown, Hallie. She dropped her voice to a baritone. I don't like it when Hallie's in distress. I will explode if I don't fix it for her. All right, now he was starting to sweat. Enough, Natalie. Did you really? You said that? Perhaps some version of it, he answered briskly. Are we ready to order? I'll have one of you, please, Hallie said, for his ears alone, in a way that was clearly meant to be spoken inside of her head, not out. A hard object flipped in Julian's chest, and he pressed his mouth to her temple, inhaling the paradise scent of her hair. Skin. Hallie. You've already got me, sweetheart. Alright, and that's the end of chapter 20. Let's see, we have chapter 21 left. I think that's 24, right? 22, 23, 24. Yeah, 24. Alright, 4 chapters left, my babies, my lovelies. This was a long video, a lot going on, and Hallie and Julian are together now, so we've got this far, folks. She still is not telling him, which is actually crazy work, but it wouldn't be Hallie and Julian without whatever, this prolonged love affair. I think I'm dying. So, there's that. So that is that. Alright. Bye, my lovelies. Love you. Miss you.